think everybody knows at this point that the CDC broadened their guidelines with respect to who could be tested a little less than a week ago. We incorporated those guidelines almost immediately. We believe that over the course of the next several days, there will be an enormous increase in the amount of testing that takes place on a daily basis here in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. Can't happen fast enough, but I do believe that with the pivots and the adjustments that are being made by organizations like Quest here in Marlborough and by many of our hospital partners and by the state lab and other organizations, we will get to the point where we're doing the amount of testing every day that we believe we need to be doing. The other thing I do want to mention is, many of you know we submitted a disaster request to the Small Business Administration several days ago. They turned around that request and acknowledged and approved Massachusetts small businesses for disaster recovery relief, and we fully expect we'll be working with the SBA to ensure that their resources are brought to bear to support small businesses here.
Just to remind people of where we were. So at the beginning of this, only the CDC could do testing. And then our state lab on, I think it was February 28th, the days are sort of learning together, our state lab got approval to do testing. And then by the beginning of the week that we would have capacity, so I didn't even count Steve's number, so we're hoping by the beginning of the week to have about 3,500, the ability to test 3,500 a day in Massachusetts, between the state lab, commercial labs, Broad Institute coming online beginning of the week, and others, which would be a good place, to build from in our state. To ensure that our healthcare workers get tested really fast, to ensure that our first responders get tested really fast, to make sure that folks who are critically ill and in hospitals get tested really quickly with those results turned around, so that if they need to be moved then from an ICU to a med-surg bed, we can do that to continue to increase capacity within our healthcare system.
1,000 facilities that would do testing for Quest Diagnostics, so that number I provided is nationally. This facility will eventually get to about 2,000 to 3,000 per day. Okay?
By Saturday?
Well, we're ramping as we speak. We hope by next week we'll get to a higher number than we are right now. We literally just brought up the laboratory developed test, and we're bringing up that automatic platform. It doesn't mean that citizens in the state of Massachusetts are not getting tested today. In the meantime, we're actually bringing those specimens down to our Virginia facility. We're going out to California. So this will enable us to be able to satisfy the Massachusetts demand here with this new
The United
capacity.
States has been banging on the door of the federal government with respect to the stockpile. We certainly have, and we're going to continue to. Getting the supply chain running with respect to that, so that we have the ability to be sure that even once the stockpile is dealt with, there's a supply chain there with a regular distribution of additional gear is going to be critically important, not just for Massachusetts providers, but for providers all over the country and for first responders and others. Putting together the bed capacity that's going to be necessary to deal with the increase in what we all believe will be people who need to be hospitalized associated with this. I mean, these are all the things that we stood the command center of to chase and try and compress the time frames around. I fully believe that that we in Massachusetts are doing the things we need to do to catch up, but there's no question that the federal government has a lot of catching up to do as well. I can't remember the last time I went a month without seeing my dad. But I absolutely believe it is in his best interest for me to give him space. I mean, I'm in my 60s, but I'm a healthy person, and if I were to end up contracting this, I really do believe for me it would be like the flu. But my dad's 91 years old, and the people that he spends most of his days with are, generally speaking, in the same age category that he is in. They are among the most vulnerable people, clearly, with respect to this issue, not just here, but everywhere. And I think the thing that I've been doing is, I mean, my dad is not a phone guy, and neither am I, but we're just not. You know, I mean, our typical phone conversation lasts about 30 seconds. You know, I'll be there at 5 o'clock. Good, see you then. So we are becoming better at talking to each other and engaging using a device that historically wasn't our preferred way of communicating. I think my message to anybody who's got family in a long-term care facility, you should know that in Massachusetts, people have been incredibly aggressive about putting protocols, policies, and procedures in place to keep those people safe. And it has to be the way it is for their sake. And I get the fact that that means for those of us who want to hug our mom or our dad or a family member who's in an assisted living facility or a long-term care facility, that there's a certain anguish during a time like this to not be able to have that physical presence. But that physical presence for them at this point in time is exactly the wrong thing to do. And I think we just all have to come up with alternative ways of trying to create the connectivity that for all of us, when it comes to our parents and our grandparents, that's so fundamental. And